Strange Phenomenon is returning for another season October 16th. We have more evidence, more interviews, and more strange tales to kick off the Halloween season. New episodes will release every 2 weeks, and we'll be dropping the full interviews with our guests between episodes, so you can dig deep into each story. In celebration of the upcoming season, we have a listener-submitted story we'd like to share. We'll let William from Mississippi take it from here.
I like going blue cat fishing, for blue cat because they're real big. I went into a swamp when it was a tributary coming off Arkabutler Lake, and it's kind of a swampy area at that time of the year. I hadn't really been catching that much of nothing. I crossed this little cross creek, and whenever I crossed it, I started catching fish, but at about the same time, it was like people whispering, is what it sounded like, possibly almost like a Spanish language. And I kept wondering what somebody was doing out there in the swamp at 2 o'clock in the morning. They wasn't coon hunting. They didn't have no dogs. I hear, one of them knock on a tree 3 times. And I said, oh, shit, that's some Bigfoot shit. And I go to turn around and leave. Well, while I'm turning around, the first 2 that was kind of whispering, they was on my right. And when I turned around, one on my left sit there and knocked the tree 3 times, answering, I guess. And I ended up getting stuck on a sandbar. And when I was on this sandbar, I was probably about 15, 20 feet off of the bank. And there was this huge willow tree, and it was probably about 15 feet wide, about 20 feet tall. It was real big. And something started shaking that whole tree, and it was growling at me. And the growl was so deep. And I'm stuck on a sandbar while this is going on. So I have to jump out of the boat closer to him, get the boat off of the sandbar, and whenever I get the boat off the sandbar, I start back. And the first 2 that were talking, now they're starting to throw rocks at me. The one that was shaking the willow tree, he's still growling and following right along beside of me. He's snapping limbs and stuff like that. Like I say, it probably took about 10, 15 minutes once I passed that cross creek, whenever they started talking, and whenever they did that, I had to go all the way back, but as soon as I crossed that cross creek, they stopped. Since they stopped and they wasn't hitting me with the rocks, I thought it was a territory thing. I actually went fishing after I went a little bit further up. And I don't want to say this one, but I guess I will, but I could have swore there was something swimming beside the boat when I was leaving, underwater like a frogman. I read later that they had been seen swimming like that. I just don't want to seem nuts. I was just running on moonlight that night, I went back the next day with a friend of mine and took some pictures. I didn't get a good footprint or anything like that, but it's one of the limbs that had been snapped. And the thing was about 9, 10 feet off the ground. It was about as big around as my forearm, and something just grabbed it, twisted it, and just ripped the bark all the way down to the tree trunk. I got kind of ridiculed over it, actually, and 2 of the people that was ridiculing me, I took them back the next weekend, and they got to hearing it, and the lady that was with me, she actually seen it and said, let's get out of here, and we had to leave right then, but I didn't believe in those things until that night, man.
Make sure to subscribe to the feed on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any of the content headed your way.